erroneously fired the person because the... I'd like to comment about the story in San Antonio regarding the F5 appeal process and remarks made by the San Antonio News Channel that said we didn't want to see comment. And I'd like to address the Texas Police Chiefs Association remarks as well as the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement remarks. There is such a thing as an officer who deserves to be terminated, to be disciplined. On that we all agree. Someone who's broken the rules and done so in a way that violated the public's trust, and regardless of what they've done, L.E.A.T is fundamentally structured to believe in that individual's right to an appeal. And so if you don't have civil service rights in some of the smaller communities across the state, and there are many, there are thousands of officers who are working today with no appeals right except to appeal back to the person who fired them. So in these small communities where politics sometimes runs rampant, where trumped up charges, political firings, and personality cults exist, then if you're disciplined unfairly or terminated, then we don't believe that that chief of police should have the final say on whether or not you get to appeal losing your license as a peace officer and ever working again. That's unfair, that's unjust. Kim Vickers and all the Texas police chiefs in Texas know this, and so that's why the ALJ was set up as an appeal process for Texas officers when they're appealing or defending their license. We don't think that should change. So if you've done your homework as a police department, in your internal affairs department, as a chief, as a sheriff, and you're firing someone because they've done something wrong, you ought to be willing, of course, to take that, put it on paper, have the guts to fire them because they deserve it. You don't want them in your department anymore. They violated the rules. And you ought to be able to go to an ALJ, stand up, take the oath, and defend your position. And then that officer, should they lose, will no longer be a peace officer. What's wrong with that? Why do you want to be God? So, if you erroneously fired the person because the punishment didn't fit the crime, if you, for example, fired the person because you didn't like them, because they didn't fit in your small town clique, because of any other personal reason, and you don't show up at the ALJ as a police chief because you're too arrogant and you don't believe that anyone has a right to question your authority, or if you believe, for example, that you did it wrong and you don't want to have to defend yourself or embarrass yourself back home, or you're afraid that you're going to perjure yourself because you absolutely lied about what was going on and that'll be found out, and you don't show up, then the ALJ considers that a technical, and oftentimes they will allow the officer to keep the license. That is proper justice under the circumstances. So when you say, as TICO Executive Director, that this happens every day, that was the quote. Every day I challenge TICO to release the names of all the officers in Texas that they don't believe should be working. 2, if you won't release the names, then release the list of the number of officers that you believe shouldn't be working, should not have a license, and let the public know. Then the police chiefs, I would challenge them to take this seriously. If you don't want an officer to work in your department because of something that they've done, get your paperwork right, get the facts right, fire them, and I promise you, they'll stay fired and lose their license if that's what's appropriate. So when people come to us and tell us, we will interview you if you'll say this, well, that goes against our ethics, that goes against our our code here at L.E.A.T, and that's not what we're about. So when we disagree with Tico's statement, when we disagree with a position for the Texas Police Chiefs Association, we're disagreeing in a thoughtful way. And so we don't want to be the counter, the cheap entertainment on your channel. We're not going to be told by anyone, in or out of journalism, what we'll do and what we'll say. Our position will continue to be on a case-by-case basis, and we'll continue to support the rank and file law enforcement of Texas regardless of where you work. You can count on that.